Let's go ahead and move on to the FTC. Again, man, I love doing shows where we actually get to talk about stuff
Policy.
which is interesting and which is real moves and not just something stupid. So let's put this up there on the screen. The FTC is suing to block Facebook, aka Meta, virtual reality deal as it is confronting big tech. So it was a 3-2 vote by the FTC, all of the Democrats voting against, all the Republicans voting for, in order to block the company.
Other way.
Oh, sorry. Obviously, right.
Democrats voted to block the deal. Republicans voted in favor of Facebook.
To keep the deal, correct. So the company formerly known as Facebook, from buying this virtual reality company, which was called Within. Now, Within was one of those companies that was going to operate within the Facebook Metaverse and was going to be incorporated into try and use some fitness and other applications for the VR headset, which was formerly known as Oculus. I'm just going to keep calling it Oculus because I think Oculus is an awesome name. But this is one of the first times that the FTC in the Biden administration has actually sued in order to prevent a merger by Facebook. Here's what they said. They said that by doing so, they were trying to prevent a monopoly in the emerging virtual space, which I think is really interesting because Meta, aka Facebook, having changed their name and Zuckerberg going all in, he very clearly sees the metaverse, the emerging metaverse, as the sole building ground of Facebook. He's like, it's almost like the Facebook product and all of that is going to the wayside and will just become tools inside of this virtual space of which people are supposed to work, live, entertain, etc. Sounds terrible to me, but
yes,
that's the world that they want. So by suing to prevent that, they are saying, okay, maybe that type of world will exist in the future. But if it is to exist, we don't want a single company to control all aspects of that experience. And so we'll all, if you guys have ever watched like Ready Player One or anything, it's exactly the same thing, which is that you don't want it set up so that the company owns the, the device that you enter in through. And then once you enter in the things that you buy and you use, you're also buying from the same company. You kind of want it to be almost like the Apple App Store where, okay, there's a device where you can enter the space, kind of like the internet. And then once you're on the internet, there's all these kinds of different services, different private companies and others that you could use. And so this is an interesting kind of flag by the US government to say in the smallest areas of tech development, because they're looking at this and they're saying, okay, Facebook, they're smart people. They think that this is going to be the future. Well, then we need to do what we didn't do with Instagram and social media and say, we're going to set up the playing field from the very beginning to try and be independent and to allow small businesses to thrive there. So very interesting move, I think, by the government.
It absolutely is. And this is Lina Khan and the antitrust movement really flexing their muscles here. Because for a long time, the way that antitrust law was applied, it was really scaled back so that you had these very narrow definitions of what constituted a monopoly, almost nothing qualified. And so there were very few actions like this to prevent major acquisitions and mergers. And so the fact that they're saying, you may not be a monopoly in this space today, but we see how this space is going and we see where the direction this is heading in, and we're gonna step in on the front end and make sure that a bedrock principle of this new space is free and open competition. That is really quite new in the modern era. I mean, it's really quite new, period. And it does seek to learn from what is seen as previous mistakes, and what I would agree are previous mistakes of not anticipating the direction that things are going in, like with Facebook's acquisition of Instagram, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that happened while Kamala Harris was Attorney General of California. A lot of those big deals, big tech deals that allowed them to consolidate the space happened while she was Attorney General of California. So I also want to give a lot of credit to, I mean, this is a relatively new movement that has been extraordinarily effective in getting their people in places of power and then actually taking significant actions like this, landmark actions that could really change the way that we handle increasing corporate consolidation, which, as you know, I mean, this has huge implications for every facet of society. Has implications, we're seeing it right now in terms of inflation. Part of why you have high inflation right now is because you have so much consolidation across industries, they know they can get away with charging you whatever you want. And there are very few competitors out there that you could ultimately go to. It has huge implications when it comes to labor as well. Because again, if there's only one company in town that you can work for, then you don't have a lot of options and a lot of ability to use your sort of power of solidarity and collective action as a worker in order to achieve a better deal for yourself. At every level, monopolies have consolidated power in a way that is detrimental to society. And so this is a truly landmark move to try to anticipate what that sort of like hellish dystopian future is going to look like and try to cut it off at the pass.
And this is a real crossroads for Facebook. Let's go ahead and skip ahead, guys, to C5, please. Go ahead and put this up there, the Washington Post tear sheet. The reason that this matters is that Facebook right now is at a real crossroads. I mean, they are currently fearing job cuts because there are major warnings from Mark Zuckerberg and other leaders who are saying, listen, we're in a time of struggle. We're betting the house on the metaverse. And if it doesn't work out, we're going to have some problems. And the core product is not necessarily going to be a guarantor of your job prosperity in the future. And just like that, another reason that this matters is that the FTC announcement came on the very same day that Facebook was required to tell its earnings to Wall Street. This is something I talked about in Monday on my monologue. Lo and behold, let's put this up there. For the first time in company history, as a public company, Facebook has seen a quarterly revenue decline. And the outlook for the next quarter is also not looking good. Revenue is shrinking dramatically at the company. Now look, the company continues to print money like nobody's business. So it's not like they're gonna go out anytime soon. Their revenue for the second quarter was $28.82 billion, down from $29 billion a year earlier. And the profit was still $7 billion. However, that's 36% down from the previous year. So it's not like they still aren't printing money. However, they can see the writing on the wall. They're already under attack, really, by TikTok. This explains, for those of you, we have a whole segment coming out this weekend about how much we hate the new Instagram update. Well, maybe this explains it, because they're seeing revenue decline. They're seeing engagement go down. They know the future is with teens. They know that teens are absolutely not using Instagram to the way that they are using TikTok. They're trying to force people in that direction, and at the same time, betting the future on VR. But if VR is allowed to be emerging as a more competitive space than Facebook's initial acquisition of Instagram and all of that, it will blunt the Zuckerberg playbook and could put Facebook in a very precarious situation 10 years from now. I don't want to say that it's going to just disappear, but who knows where they are in 10 or 15 years. Well, so I think it's very interesting from that
And the
point
idea here from Lina Khan and her allies is basically like, okay, compete in the space. Like, if you want to be, meta's your new thing, you're all in on this, build some stuff of your own.
Build your own fitness app.
Build some stuff of your own that's innovative and that people like. You can't just, because you have this massive, market position, buy up everything good that's sort of burgeoning in the space and come in as this behemoth. You have to be able to build it yourself. So I think that's really important. There's also a political point. We can put the third element here, C3, up on the screen. This was, as we mentioned, a 3-2 vote, and this is from Matt Stoller. He says the GOP talks a big game. This is about Zuckerberg being named. Go to the, I think it's C3. There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
This was a 3-2 vote, a C4. The GOP talks a big game about big tech, but when there's an actual Facebook merger on deck, the two Republican commissioners voted to help Zuckerberg. Glenn Greenwald echoed that point, which I thought was really interesting. He says a lot of Republicans manipulate and deceive their voters by going on cable and ranting about big tech. They fundraise off ranting against big tech, but then when nobody's looking, when it counts, they act to protect big tech from any attempt to limit their massive power. So I thought that, kind of undeniable point. Look, this was a partisan vote. Democrats voted to, stick it to big tech. Meanwhile, Republicans are talking a lot of a big game on cable news, but their people on their team voted in favor of Mark Zuckerberg here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.